Yes, we've got a woman on our panel. She has been in the real estate business for 22 years. She started her business 10 years ago, and she specializes in optimizing systems for agents. Who needs that in their life? Let's give it up for Kathleen Metcalf.
I am so happy to follow these guys. Wow, powerhouse. So the fact that systems aren't necessarily thought of as sexy, I really love the fact that when my slides come up, you'll see that freedom to achieve is what I named this conversation for us today, because it's really what we're after in the results of achieving is also to have Deirdre. Hi, Deirdre. Is to have freedom. And so I want to really tap in to what is that for us and how do we get there? And so I really want you to hold on to, as Lars said, to surrender to the process and to release the result, that's a part of what the systems, the workflow is to do for you, is to give you a way to have freedom as you achieve and so that you have freedom when you achieve. So I named my company Cambium. Cambium, spelled with a C, is the layer underneath the bark of a tree that provides the tree with oxygen and nutrients for it to grow and thrive throughout its lifetime. And that is what your operations is underneath your sales. So to attract, convert, and deliver, there is a system underneath there, a process underneath that. And then we're going to get to talk today about how that can go, what that can look like. I'm considering this as Google Earth. So I'm going to give you the high view of being able to look at the workflow and the systems that can happen in your real estate business. So then you're still going to need Google Maps. And from Google Maps, you're still going to want Siri, of some place to go to ask questions, to be able to say, how do I apply this in this situation? But for right now, we're going to do some Google Earth. So for freedom, what does it feel like? What does it look like for you? So what are some things that you associate with freedom? How about in your financial life? What's freedom? You have enough money? Peace? Flying first class? Having money in the bank with some commas maybe would also be nice. What does freedom look like in your relationships, in your family? Assist your family members. For kids, anybody want to send kids to private school? Generosity, go on vacation. How about for your health and your well-being? What does freedom look like there? Intentionality. Shopping at Whole Foods, you're able to buy organic, you're able to have whatever you want and need, you're able to work out, belong to the gym, get massages, right? All those really wonderful things. So to be able to keep that in mind, that freedom looks like things and freedom also has a feeling. So I'm gonna lead you through a momentary guided meditation. So take a moment, put your feet flat on the floor, put your hands on your lap, and close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, hold it, breathe out. Now I want you to think about freedom in your life. You have all the money that you need to pay all your bills. You have no debt. You have the home that you love. You have your family is safe and secure. Your children, your parents are all in good health. They go to school. They have their retirement set up. Your community has all of the events that you need. We're saving dogs. We're feeding the homeless. We're putting in economic housing. The community is in good shape. Your health and well-being is fine. You are in good health. You are strong. And you feel at peace. You feel confident to walk into any situation that you have what you need. you have a network of people that you need to solve any kind of situation or problem, and you have a faith that the process and the network will support you. You have a faith that the laws of the universe, the gods of your understanding, are there to support you. Now, I really want you to ground this piece. This is the freedom you are chasing to achieve. Take a deep breath. Breathe out. Feel your feet on the floor and your fingers on your lap. And open your eyes and come back to hang out with me. So this freedom, this is what all this chaos control is for. Is that what we're seeking? Is to find that freedom in all the ways that looks like and feels like for you. And so now we get to design, okay, so what is that? What are the possibilities for that? So in order to look at how we might design your businesses, I also want to talk a little bit about the history of work. So we are influenced by things that we consciously decide, ways in which we have heard, we have great models to follow. We are also influenced in the way we work unconsciously by social norms. It's the way we saw it, it's the way our parents modeled it. It's totally unconscious. We don't even realize what an influence it has on our lives. So how many people here, raise your hands if you will, have had another career before real estate? You worked for a company. Okay. How many people had a boss they really liked? Me too. Who had a boss you didn't really care for? Maybe even more hands. How sad. Right? And how many of you have built and had another business, had another entrepreneurial venture before this? And how many people didn't like the way they ran that, didn't like the way that happened? So the history of work includes from about 1776, when the country was born, until the middle 1800s. It was about labor. So Aaron talks about different forms of leverage, and the easiest form of that is labor. And so in order to look at the evolution of work, it used to be that people had a farm, and their family worked together on their farm. Or they had handcrafts, and they had something special that they brought to their village. And then we had more people, and the peasants, which what they called them in Europe, right, needed to then be able to come and work in industrialized food. And so now people began to work the fields, and usually the men left the women and went to work in some sort of industrialized way. In the very beginning, the first real farm workers were slaves. So we had the history of people working against their will, right? In 1886, we had freedom from that, but now we still had the industrialized revolution happening. So then what we did is we created factories. So now we had people working in factories, standing side by side. And so not only did the men come to work in the factory, but often so did the women, and so did the children. And so then as the workforce began to multiply, they began to also revolt, because this was no way. Now the family structure, the way that people used to structure their day, their week, their community, the way they had time together, the way that they ate together, all shifted. So this industrialized revolution, for all intensive purposes, destroyed our cell of family and community, all for the better good, to be able to feed more people, make more products, take care of everyone. Does anyone know where the 5-day work week was born? Henry Ford. Henry Ford realized that if his workers worked 6 days a week, that was normal, then they didn't really have a lot of free time. And so they didn't really need a car, because they worked 6 days, and then on the 7th day, they went to church, and then they went back to work. And so he realized that if he didn't cut their pay, but he had them work 5 days. They would have more free time. They might want to go for a ride, might want to go visit their mother. They might want to do something else. And his competitors went wild, but he sold a lot of cars. So we have Henry Ford to thank for going from 6 days to 5 days. But that became the norm. But that was invented by some guy who wanted to sell cars, right? It wasn't necessarily something that we consciously wanted to look at. So recognizing that the history of work has abuse, neglect, strife, exhaustion, and resentment. And as entrepreneurs, we have choices. People working like machines has been a long-standing, centuries-old habit. But we're not machines, we're human beings. And so how do you want to craft your business and your workflow, your day, your calendar, what is important to you? Recognize that you have the ability to make an enormous amount of conscious decisions about that, but you may be fueled by unconscious things that you don't realize that you consider to be, this is normal, but it doesn't have to be your normal unless we keep recreating it. So as an entrepreneur, as an agent, as a broker, you as a support person working for an entrepreneur, you have a blank slate. You really do get to create what is your business going to be like? How do you want to run it? You can think out of the box. But inside of this opportunity, there is, well, what do you want it to be like? Do you want to have it be smooth and easy where everyone matters, everything counts? Do you like some organized chaos? And do you not necessarily realize that sweeping it up and not necessarily having a schedule, and that you consider not having a schedule freedom when having a schedule actually gives you more freedom? Then you're creating that in your own world. Or do you have the belief that it has to be hard, it has to be a grind, it has to be sharp and jagged in order to prove your worth by your production, to prove your worth by how hard it is? When you were born worthy, you were born valuable, there is nothing for you to prove. You can want to achieve, but you already are valuable. Your hard work in that way is not necessary. So Lars, I've been a big fan for years in the background, and now it is a thrill to be able to work more closely with him. I have loved the fact that in Scale or Die and in his videos and in his Facebook group, he talks about the fact that you can have a life. And so it is also completely okay that as salespeople, that this is not your jam, that you don't know how to design this, that you don't think this way. It's okay, because there is a counterbalance who is very happy to work with you in administration and operations. They just need to partner with you. Is anyone familiar with the analogy? It happens in relationships, in businesses, about the rock and the kite. So anybody flown a kite? Right? So it has to be attached to a string, and it usually has a dowel with a string roll on it, and then it needs wind, and then it sometimes takes where you have to run, and you have to run to get it up, and then you have to try to keep it up. But the higher it goes, the more important is the dowel and the string and the person holding it. So in order to fly high, you need to be tethered to something stable. Most salespeople are kites, particularly the eye and the disc, those expressives, right? I often say, most of my clients, I try to identify what bird they are. And a lot of agents are hummingbirds. And that's okay, you just have to pay attention to what a hummingbird needs. Some of my clients are falcons who kill on the way down, fast moving, you know, but to be able to know that you're a kite. And if you want to fly high, if you want to do the Super Bowl and reach 100 deals in a year, right, that's high flying. And so what is tethering you so that you can let go of your concern that it's what you do to attract and convert is going to be delivered consistently, so that that service, that the promises that you have made are going to be followed through on your systems, your operations, your administrative operational support network, whatever that can look like, is your rock. So in Lars's definition of different levels of performance and achievement, we refer to that at my business as set up, level up, and optimize. And no matter where you are in your business, it's okay if you need different systems. We have worked with agents who are making multi-million dollars in GCI. They've been in the industry 25 years and they barely have a checklist. They've had a TC who's been with them for 20 years. And if Katie leaves, everybody's in trouble, but they do a lot of deals, but they don't have a lot of systems. And we've worked with a woman in Seattle who used to spend time, who was in prison, who turned her life around, became a broker, wanted to have a brokerage of people of color, and we helped her set up all her systems so that she could attract and then be able to have them perform well so that she could help other people turn their lives around by being fantastically successful and supported real estate agents. So you can be starting something and you can be well into your career, but you're also going to want to optimize your systems as you go. So we look at what I refer to as generically operations inside the context of leadership, that everyone who is involved in your business is a leader in their own right. So if you have a transaction coordinator, that person is a leader for that function. If you work with a marketing person who's helping with your social media and getting video and other things to promote you, that person is a leader in their own right in that way. So you need good leadership, and you as the business owner need to keep developing your leadership skills and what that looks like, whether you're setting up, leveling up, or optimizing. So the three functions are workflow, teamwork, and finances. How many of you would like to be millionaires? We're going to want to know where that money's going. And so bringing in the money is one element of the business. My coach, Belinda Rosenblum from Own Your Money, I'm a cash flow CEO, says that sales numbers are vanity numbers. It's a way to egotistically feel good about what we have achieved at different levels of success, but very few people talk about how much money they keep. And so I told Justin I was going to tee him up really nice to speak after me because he's the tax guy. So to be able to know that we want you to be millionaires and that you keep millions, not just earn millions. So when you have workflow of systems to attract, convert, and deliver your services, teamwork to the roles and expectations and accountability of anyone who is working with you, and that your finances are revenue, expenses, and profit. When those three things are working well together, you're in the center of this diagram, which is consistent, optimized results. Anyone ever suffered from burnout, overwork, chaos? So when you don't have good teamwork, you have chaos, burnout, and people making mistakes. There is such a thing as capacity. And once you reach and exceed capacity, you're no longer effective. So that's also true for your team members. There is capacity of what is the kind of volume that they can do, and you want to avoid chaos and burnout so that you don't have those mistakes. When you don't have your finances in order, you can have high expenses and minimal profit. When your workflow is not well designed, you have limited capacity and volume to do business. So you can see that this is the trifecta of being able to not only have the space to attract and convert, but you have the support system to deliver, and you're actually looking at what are you going to keep financially. So in terms of set up, level up, and optimize, when you're starting your business and you have some leaves and some flowers and you're building root structure, you want to be able to see how can you right now structure your workflow, your operations. Then you're going to need to hire and train potentially people who work with you. They don't necessarily have to be in your business, but you're going to want some kinds of support, including if that's your kids that help you do postcards. You know, that's still leverage. And then, or introduce an entire event in front of stage, right? She did a fantastic job. But you're also going to want support for a lifetime because like a tree, it always needs water, sunlight, and nutrients. So do you, your team members, and your business. So as Lars beautifully described for us, when you have your skills. So who does role play practice? You learned your script, you do chanting, fantastic, because you will need your skills, particularly in a shifting market. But you'll find even once you have your skills, you're left with how do you spend your time? And in the beginning of your career, this is what I call my rope trick. When you're first an agent, it looks like all of the tasks are your job. But what you find is that it's really a rope, and the rope is splintered into different strands, and those strands are tasks, and not all those tasks need to be done by the agent, because that's the distinction between the, I like to say $25 an hour rather than 15, because I like to give operations people a raise. But you have $25 an hour tasks and you have $250 an hour tasks. In my experience, agents who prospect and make multi six figures into the multi seven figures are worth easily $200 to $2,000 an hour for their time. And so hence figuring out what is that number for you is a great gauge to be able to see where should you be spending your time. So we look at this with the business circle, is what we call it. It's like a clock. Starting at 12 o'clock is lead generation. And every tab on this business circle needs a workflow. It's also okay if you don't think like this. It's also okay if you're not the one who would design this. That's why we're a team. That's why we have other kinds of support. And so you want to know, how can you best manage that process for getting leads, doing lead follow-up? How do you get ready for an appointment? What happens when you take a listing, manage a listing, all the way through to what happens when you close a deal? How do you stay in touch with people, right? And so in Real Estate B School, with all of the levers you can pull, but to know that this is a flow and you want it to happen over and over and over and over so that you do lots of deals and help lots of families. So I do have a gift for you. There'll be a QR code that comes up somewhere in the slides that Gabriella put in there for me to give you the listing and buyer sample checklist to begin to think about where are the tasks that you do and what are some of the options of who might do that. And the names, the roles on the columns is all up to be, up for grabs. So it can be what an agent does. A listing coordinator is our abbreviation for LC. You could have an assistant. You could have a TC, a transaction coordinator. You could have, your 10-year-old daughter on the list because she's really great, put labels on postcards. You might have a runner who takes out your signs and your lock boxes. You can have different forms of leverage. The idea is to begin to train your brain to separate the tasks into income generating and income servicing. And which ones do you really need to do in order to achieve your goals, including the freedom that you want to achieve. And if you intend to have a big business and do a lot of deals, then you are designing a super highway of efficiency and effectiveness. And so it might seem like you're just, planning to do a walk through a garden with stones. But what you're really doing is planning an infrastructure for an interstate to be able to have more and more transactions if that's a part of your goal. If you don't do that, for a historical reference, you have Lucy and the chocolate factory, because as that conveyor belt went faster and faster, you cannot eat enough chocolate, even if you really love chocolate, to be able to keep up with that. So we want to be able to help you prepare for your success. So when you are setting up your business, you are going from having a job as an agent to recognizing that you're now setting up a business. And so what are all those components that you're going to need, which is working on your business, not just in your business, in the transactions, and what kind of support do you need? So what are your strengths and where are you less confident? Where are you not skilled? Where is it not even worth your time to get skilled, right? So are you being your own bookkeeper? Are you trying to still do your own taxes? Are you someone who doesn't really like spreadsheets or systems in terms of technology? So setting up your Google Drive or your Dropbox folders, why do that when you can have other people, right, who can help you do that? To level up is where you recognize you are going to have some kind of team, and that word has certainly changed in definition over the last several years. But it doesn't have to be a formal where you do a lot of production and you have 6 employees that are all assistants for you. You can, and we can help you with that too. But at the same time, recognize that where is the leverage for you and how creative do you want to be with your mentors about what that could look like for you. And then you always want to optimize. And so when I work with agents, team leaders, and say, have you done your business plan? Share your goals with me because I want to be able to support you. And then I say, okay, now have you shown this business plan to your operations team? Most time the answer is no. And I said, well, that's the next step, because now we need to know how is this going to impact them? What do they need to do in order to deliver on this for you? Where are they already having problems that you want to be able to solve? Because part of leadership is to know where are the obstacles? What am I doing? What are we doing that is negatively impacting your role? And what do you need to fix that? So that you want to know that you can have all the goals you want, but if your leverage is part of that dynamic, then they need to be in on how are they going to produce that for you. So just like when you build a house, anybody ever built a house? Anybody ever renovated a house in a big way? Yeah. So I did a big kitchen renovation at my house in Vermont in 2022. Dream come true. It's fantastic. Because I was really ready to spend some money on stuff that was pretty. Because I said to my husband, I am really sick of spending a lot of money on stuff that's not pretty, because the stuff that's in your infrastructure is rebar, concrete, plumbing, electrical, roof shingles, right? Drywall, that tile, that board you have to put behind that tile, right? All of that stuff. And big disappointment, this is what your systems are. This is the operations of your business. We're plumbers and electricians. But if you want a hot shower and you want to put in the sauna and you want to be able to plug in your computer and have electrical, and you want to be able to have those cool remotes where your shades go up and down, you have to spend money to put in the infrastructure so you can have the comfort, so you can have the ease later. But it requires an investment. And sometimes an investment that doesn't feel really good because you're like, oh, really? Checklists are cheap. So you can also do things, one step at a time. But I just want to set the expectation for you that having good operations and systems is just like having electrical and plumbing inside your house. And you want to be able to design that so that everyone on the team is comfortable. Because the other thing we don't really need is the cascading effect where the agent is burned out and overloaded, and so then the administration person is overloaded and overworked, and now the TC is burned out because now they can't. And so we just want to keep the burnout out of the picture. So how do we design it so everyone can have a great life? So you'll be able to have our list of all these different facets of checklists to begin to train your mind, so that you have workflow, teamwork, and finances as a part of how you're managing your business, so that you can really have the freedom. Remember that feeling. Remember that's what you're chasing. That feeling of calm confidence is what you're really after. That's the chase. And so there's your QR code to be able to get your free download. It will ask you for a little bit of contact information. If you would like to have me contact you, make sure you put your phone number in on the form. But otherwise, this is meant for you to be able to start to think about what do you want to do to set up, what are you going to do, and what is anybody else who supports you, so that you have freedom to achieve with systems. And that's me. Thank you. Great to spend time with you. I'll see you tonight.
Jose, we just want a cash offer. We do not want to list the property. We don't want anybody to walk through our home.
Yeah, happy to give you a cash offer. I have no problem whatsoever with that.